This has to be one of the most brutal and unhinged love gone wrong cases. What happens when two people, both battling mental health disorders, both addicted to alcohol and cocaine, fall in love? The answer is rarely a fairy tale. In fact, it's a story that begins with love and ends in horror story. Welcome to the dark side of love, your safe space for unsafe romance here. We explore the most dangerous relationships, so you don't have to live through them. Olivia Labinjo-Halcrow wasn't always this way. She was once a brilliant student, bright, focused, full of potential. She earned a scholarship to a top university. But then, life happened. She met a man. He worked as a laborer. Their relationship became toxic, emotionally draining. She got pregnant. And when the relationship ended, she walked away with more than just heartbreak. Because not only she is a single mother now, she is also a college dropout, and she is deeply depressed. In an attempt to escape her crumbling world, she joined the military. But her pain followed her. PTSD, isolation, and shame wrapped around her like a second skin. Eventually, she turned to alcohol and cocaine, not for fun, but for survival. Then there was Gary Cunningham. Not book smart, but hardworking. He worked as a solar panel engineer. He had his own battles too: ADHD, depression, and a growing addiction to cocaine. Partying, drinking, using it all became part of his lifestyle. The drugs caught up to him. He lost his driving license after multiple run-ins with the police. His life was spiraling. But then he met Olivia. They met at a club. It was loud, dark, filled with energy. And somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, two damaged souls found each other. Their connection? Instant, but unhealthy. They bonded over pain, over addiction, over destruction. Days blurred together, spent drinking, using, escaping. There were no boundaries, no limits. They became each other's drug. But when love is built on addiction, obsession, and trauma, it's not a matter of if something will go wrong. It's a matter of when. When Gray started dating Olivia and introduced her to his family, they pretty much didn't like her because she was always intoxicated. But still, Gray had found his soulmate, and now nothing could stop him. So they continued their relationship. They drank all night, partied, and this was pretty much their routine for a while, until things started to get dark. Olivia began to become aggressive as time passed, and not just regular yelling or shouting. She started to attack him so badly that she even ended up stabbing him one time. And when this happened, poor Gray didn't want to report her, because she had a kid and a lot of bad records, and he didn't want her child to be taken away from her. Gray's parents could see the changes in his life, and his sister even saw him with a stab wound and asked him how he got it. And he said he got it from Olivia. So now, Olivia wasn't really liked by Gray's family. You'd think she would tone it down a bit, maybe change her aggressive attitude, but no, it kept getting worse. She stabbed him anytime she got angry, and Gray never reported her to the authority. And maybe, just maybe, Gray stayed because of his past. You see, before Olivia, Gray had already lived through his own mistakes. He had Tourette's syndrome and ADHD, disorders that made life unpredictable and overwhelming. Back then, he had a girlfriend who eventually had a child with him. But parenting with his conditions wasn't easy. Gray struggled. He couldn't focus. He couldn't stay calm. And one day, he lost control and assaulted the mother of his child. That moment changed everything. He lost custody, and the mother walked away for good. It haunted him. So maybe when Olivia became abusive, when she started lashing out, Gray didn't want her to go through what he went through. He didn't want her child taken away. He didn't want her to be punished the way he had been. So he stayed. And the abuse continued. And it only got worse. Everyone around him could see it. He was fading, tired, worn out. At this point, he was living with Olivia. But then, one day, it went too far. They were arguing again. And as usual, Olivia grabbed a knife and stabbed him multiple times. This fight became a bloodbath. That was it. Gray had finally had enough. He left the relationship, and for the first time in a long time, people were happy for him. He even found a new girlfriend. Someone calm, kind, different. His life started looking up. He had peace, stability. Things were finally turning around. Until he went back to Olivia all of a sudden. Some say it was pity. Some say it was guilt. Or maybe he still loved her. He has his reason, right? But whatever the reason was, made everyone in Gray's life so furious. His father was so upset that he cut Gray off completely. Olivia even tried to apologize to his dad, but he wouldn't let her through the door. But still, Gray and Olivia continued their relationship. And Gray, Well, he never talked about his problems again, and that silence would soon cost him everything. It all came to a violent, tragic end in February 2019. Gray and Olivia were still living together at the time. And like always, the cycle continued: the drinking, the fighting, the screaming. Only this time, it didn't end with just words. They got into another argument, one of many. And then, just like before, Olivia grabbed a knife. But this time, she didn't stop. She stabbed Gray again, and again, and again, multiple times. Gray somehow made it out of the apartment. He was bleeding, badly wounded, and desperately trying to get help. He tried to call his dad to pick him up since he couldn't drive because he had lost his driver's license. His dad obviously knew he was in trouble, but refused to come because he was still mad at him for going back to his ex. But what he didn't know was that it would be the last time he'd ever speak to his son. Gray collapsed in the stairwell of their apartment building. That's where they found him. A young man barely clinging to life, his blood staining the cold floor. And Olivia didn't call for help. She left him there to die. By the time emergency services arrived, it was too late. Gary Cunningham Jr. was dead. He was only 29 years old. A life full of struggles, a life full of second chances. But in the end, it was love, or something like it, that killed him. And the woman who took his life, she acted like nothing happened. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Gray's lifeless body in the stairwell, blood everywhere. But it didn't take long for them to start connecting the dots. The trail led straight to Olivia's apartment. And when they knocked on her door, she answered like nothing had happened. She told them she didn't know what happened, claimed she had no idea how Gray ended up like that. But the evidence in the apartment spoke louder than her lies ever could. There was blood inside, a knife in the sink, clothing stained red, and Olivia was covered in bruises. She marks. She tried to twist into her story. She told police she acted in self-defense, that she was scared, and that Gray had come at her. But this wasn't the first time she had stabbed him. Gray's family had told them everything. The history of abuse, the previous attacks, the stab wound his sister saw months before. The police checked Olivia's phone. They found messages, threats, and angry rants. All of this was a patterns of control. And then came the most chilling detail of all. This was something darker. Something Olivia had been building toward for a long time. She even told her friend that she could kill him and get away with it because of her history of PTSD from the army. You will think the truth is finally unveiling, and Gray is about to get his justice. But Olivia didn't stop. Olivia was charged. At first, she tried to keep up the act, claiming self-defense, painting herself as the victim. She said Gray was violent, even referring to his past mistakes. She said that he attacked her, and she had no choice. But the courtroom wasn't buying it either. Although she got away from being charged of murder, the prosecution laid everything bare. They brought in Gray's family, his sister testified. She told the court about the stab wound she saw with her own eyes and how Gray admitted Olivia had done it. They showed the jury Olivia's past, the violent outbursts, the patterns of abuse, the previous assaults that Gray never reported. They presented the forensics, the blood trail, the knife, the phone messages, and none of it supported her story. Her claims of self-defense fell apart, but she's quite manipulative and had a very good lawyer. The jury listened, and they saw the truth. This wasn't a woman fighting for her life. This was a woman who had become comfortable with violence, who used it to control, to punish, to destroy. At her first trial, she was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 18 years in prison. But Olivia wasn't done. She appealed the verdict, and shockingly, the court granted her a retrial. In 2021, during the second trial, she was convicted again. But this time, her sentence was reduced to just 11 years. Only 11 years. For the man she stabbed repeatedly and left to die, for Gray's family, it was another wound that would never heal. But you know what is more terrifying? The child Olivia had, the one Gray was trying so hard to protect. The reason he refused to go to the police was also found dead not long after. He passed away while living with his biological father and his girlfriend. After Olivia went to prison, the boy had to move in with them, but he died due to neglect. The very child Gray was trying to protect, the one he stayed silent for, the one he didn't want his mother to lose, ended up dead anyway. And what's even worse, the people responsible was his own father and his girlfriend. They were both found guilty, first-degree murder, and sentenced to life imprisonment. It's honestly heartbreaking to think that Gray tried to protect that boy with everything he had, and yet he still died. It's one of the worst things that could have happened. A double tragedy, a man killed for love, and a child lost to silence. In the end, Gray was gone. Olivia was in prison for his murder, and the child Gray tried to protect. He died too from neglect. What began as a toxic love story ended with 2 lives lost and 3 people behind bars. All because no one walked away when they should have. Thanks for watching. This is my very first video on this channel, and there's so much more to come. If you're into true stories where love turns dark, hit that like, subscribe, and stick around for more.